Welcome to Lighting for Profits.
All light, all light, all light.
Powered by Emery Allen.
Get rid of your excuses.
Your number one source for all things landscape lighting.
That's where the magic can happen. You can really scale a business.
We really had to show up for each other.
From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing.
You're a scaredy cat salesman, Kurt.
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
What do you think a hippo has to do with your business, Ryan?
Usually it's some weird childhood thing. Some bully kicked your butt.
I think the key factor here is trust.
Here is your host, Ryan Lee.
All light, all light, all light. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the number one. It's the number one landscape lighting show in Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, man, we got an awesome show lined up today. I'm Ryan Lee. I'm your host of Lighting for Profits, powered by Emery Allen. Got to hang out with Tom Garber, the CEO of Emery Allen, last week. He's been a big supporter of ours. We were at Landscape Lighting Live in Tampa. I got to tell you, it was an amazing time. I'll fill you in just a second. But today, broadcasting live from Landscape Lighting Secrets Studio in Lehigh, Utah, baby. Florida's great. I love it, but I do love being home. I'm excited to be back home with the family and everything. And if you're looking to start or grow a landscape lighting business, you're definitely in the right place. And for that matter, like, it doesn't matter what business you're in, you're going to want to stick around for this episode. We got the one, the only Mr. Tommy Mello. What does he have to do with landscape lighting? Absolutely nothing. But what does he have to do with profitability and growing your business and being a badass? He's the man. So he runs A1 Garage Door Service. He's the host of the Home Service Expert podcast. He authors some amazing books, coaching, events. He's got it all, blah, 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 right? He's basically a superhero. So we got him on the show today. And what's cool is I already had like a bunch of questions I want to ask, but I posted yesterday, and a lot of you had some really good questions you wanted to ask him. So we're gonna get to some of those today, and we're gonna do the show a little bit different today, changing up the format. Normally I start with a little intro and monologue, but we're not gonna do that because we have so much that we're gonna try to get through in such a short period of time. So he's coming on in literally just like 2 minutes. Landscape Lighting Live, I just got to throw it out there, guys. It was a blast. We had record attendance, completely full house, double from our last one. It was crazy. And if you missed out, we had like people on the waiting list. Like, if someone cancels, let me know. So go to landscapelightinglive.com and get your ticket to the next one. We're going to be in San Diego, and it's going to be amazing. So come to that. Even if you already have experience in landscape lighting, we're going over sales, pricing, marketing strategies to help you dominate in your business. So I do want to thank Emery Allen for their support and everything. You know, nothing hurts a quality landscape lighting install quite like flickering bulbs, a yellow fringe around the perimeter of the beam spread, or bulbs that burn out after a few on and off cycles. So don't jeopardize your customer's experience by using a budget bulb. Sure, you can buy stuff online, but maybe it's a waste. Maybe it's not going to last as long as it should. And if you're trying to charge a premium price, you better be installing premium products. So go out of your way and provide a world-class customer experience and choose Emery Allen. At the end of the day, it's what's on the inside that counts. So take advantage of Emery Allen's world-class customer service and get 10% off your first order for new clients. And what's cool is their pricing is awesome. Don't go to their website, because then you're just going to pay regular price. Listeners of Lighting for Profits, just email tomg@emeryallen.com, tomg@emeryallen.com, and he'll hook you up with the discounted contractor pricing. Just mention you heard about him here on Lighting for Profits, and he'll get you that best pricing. So, guys, I think it's time. Again, we're changing up the format. We're going to get right into the show. We got a ton of amazing content that we're going to get through with Tommy. So let's get the music going, and let's get them coming. Are you guys with me? Are you ready? Let's go. Yo, welcome to the show, Mr. Tommy Mello.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. I'm looking forward to this. This is the highlight. I told you earlier. I really enjoy doing this stuff. Like, this is like the highlight of my day.
I love that, man. I told you, I'm like super grateful. You know, when I think of Tommy Mello, a lot of people think, oh, he's probably busy. It's like, no, Tommy's not busy. Tommy's productive. But because I know you got a lot going on, I really am grateful. And it's cool that you're excited about this, because there's a lot of people that we're gonna help today. And I truly believe that we're going to change the trajectory of their life if they pay attention and if they implement just a couple things from the show. So, and you mentioned like it's a highlight of your day. Like, that's just you. Like, that's your brand. I've been following you. I've come to some of your events. It's just like you just lead with value. It's that like servant attitude. You believe in the law of reciprocity, the law of attraction, like just helping enough people get what they want, and you can get whatever you want, right? So it's awesome, man. It's inspiring.
Yep, every day. Yeah, I really believe that, man. You help a lot of people out, and it comes full circle. It's like life gives to the giver. I really believe that.
Yeah, and that's obvious in every action you take. So let's jump into it. I want to ask you. I didn't get a chance to ask you, but it's public information. A1 got acquired, at least some percentage or whatever last year. Was that the plan? Like I know, like right before that, it was like we're going to $1 billion. We're going to do all this. Was that the plan as you're building a business? Is like what is the exit strategy?
Yeah, so been through that with Core Tech, and the way that it works is it's kind of a process when you're sophisticated. And I think a lot of people go into this thing and they don't hire the right people. They don't even know what they're getting ready for. Obviously, there's a fancy word called EBITDA. It's a fancy word for profit. And what happened was we got into acquisitions, and we had a delayed draw term loan. And I had more opportunity than I had money that was accessible. So there came a decision. The multiples were up. The economy was doing great, and records were being set. And me and Tom Howard had a lot of discussions. He was on my board, and he flew out here. We went to Oregano's, and we had a discussion, and he said, let's go watch The Big Short at your house. And then we whiteboarded for about an hour. I called the president of my company. His name's Dan Miller, and I said, it's go time. And we needed 6 months. We had a quality of earnings we did internally. We got a study done in the garage door industry, $600,000. We performed what's called a SIP, and the bankers got the SIP ready of why we were a valuable company. We did all kinds of market research. We got audited, our internal audit by a Big Four bank, and we just went all in. And the results were astounding. I mean, I couldn't have wrote it any better. Like, I have no regrets. And after that happened, I'm like, every company should design a way to sell within 5 years. Everybody's got this 10, 14-year plan. I'm like, dude, the economy, you don't even know the robotics and AI. Like, have a 5-year plan, take some chips off the table. There's a rule, Adam Coffey explains, the rule of 130. Add up your age and how much of your net worth is in your company. And if it's over 130, take chips off the table today. If you're over 4 million of EBITDA, you may want to consider taking chips off the table, but you got to find the right partner, somebody that's you're going to roll equity. I rolled a ton because I actually rolled more than most anybody that Cortec has been involved in. And they said, you're freaking nuts, dude. They said, you're crazy. I said, I'll bet on myself every day out of the year. Yeah. Any day, every hour, every week, I'm going to bet on myself.
That's killer. I love that. So why? I like that you said too, like reframe, like that should be the goal of everyone, like within the next 5 years. Why are these private equity companies coming after, and why is home service and home improvement companies so attractive to these private equity companies?
Well, what happened right now, there's $12 trillion on the sidelines waiting to invest in great companies.
Wow.
What happened during COVID? Hotels shut down. Airbnbs didn't do so great. Nail salons, bowling alleys, restaurants, everything just literally shut down. Everybody was trapped in their houses. Who wasn't trapped? Well, home service. We were essential. If the hot water heater floods, you can't get out of your garage. Your locks aren't working. We were deemed essential. We stayed through all of COVID. It was the biggest incubator. And PE got smart. They said, wait a minute. These people have service agreements. They've got continued revenue spikes, profitability. And if I'm a municipality or I got a pension fund or a PE's got a lot of different forms, where can you put your money that'll do better than the market? And so what they do is typically PE will buy in a fund anywhere from 8 to 12, maybe 15 companies, depending on the size of the fund. And their goal is to get around a 3x return. That's pretty stellar if you get a 3x, but typically they'll last anywhere from 5 to 7. Your average PE firm's got a 10-year window. And they buy with the first 5 years, they sell the next 5 years. And they got to hold the company for 3 years. They don't absolutely have to, but for capital gains treatment, they're going to want to hold your company for 3 years. So I got a 3-year plan to execute a pretty significant growth pattern. And I love the PE company. I mean, these guys are like just amazing. They treat me like gold. They've helped out our company so much. Like, I look up to them, and it's a great partnership. It's amazing. And you hear these horror stories, and there's a lot of people that get in bed with the wrong companies that try to cut their way to the top. Fortunately, they invested. These guys always tell me, we didn't invest in your company. We invested in you. You're still running the show. We're just here to assist you. They told me, you got the opportunity to trump anything we tell you and anything your team tells you. We invested in you. And so it's pretty much a huge honor. And they got behind my dream in a big way. And I felt like I could go much faster, much further with them than without them. And I will tell you, taking some chips off the table feels pretty good too, because I was able to help a lot of people. 25 millionaires, lots of people in my life got money.
Congrats, man. That is killer. I mean, that's what everyone wants, like that is the American dream. And I love that you held back some, or I don't know if you bought back in, whatever the term is, like you're still in it, and you're going for the next level. So, yeah, it's completely inspirational. And I think, speaking to yourself, 5 years ago, like you look at these people that are just getting started and they're still like, in the day to day. How do you get out of that? How do you get from the small 1, 2, 3, 4-man shop to like, let's get to 10 million, let's get to 20 million, where we have a team now and we can delegate?
Yeah, delegate to elevate. Delegation is a skill most people dump. And most people don't have timelines. They don't have SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timeliness. Most people don't write things down. They don't ask for help. Most people don't have the right brand. So they show up to a house expecting premium dollars, but they look like a discount shop. Most people don't train and continuously train. They don't do good on recruiting. They don't have a good CRM to know their numbers. And they don't hire for their weaknesses. They try to find like-minded people that agree with them and are yes men, all everywhere, yes women, all around them. I try to have a good people that will argue with me and say, I don't think you're right here. They respect me enough to not say yes all the time and say, we're busy with this. We need to finish this. I think every entrepreneur has a touch of ADHD. I can sit and focus if I'm entertained and I really like the conversation. But if I'm at a meeting and I'm like, where is the agenda for this meeting? Are we going to brainstorm here? Do I even need to be in this meeting? Like, come to me with choices. I want to know what's going on, but I'll walk out of meetings. I'm like, obviously you don't need me for this. You guys figure this out. Come to me with what we need to figure out. My time's important. You get a clock and you put in everybody's salary. They got a tool online. You put in everybody's salary and bonus structure. Might be 12 people in a room. Find out these meetings cost thousands of dollars an hour.
Right.
Sometimes tens of thousands. You got to have meetings. You got to communicate. You got to unsilo the business. But there's a lot of useless meetings that people call this. Just get 2 people in that meeting that have a stake in the outcome.
Awesome, man. Well, you mentioned the little bit of ADHD that all of us have, which I think is a lot. How do you stay focused? I mean, what is like, how do you do that?
Well, I had to hire really good people around me. I'm not good at organizing. I'm not good at putting stuff on the calendar. The first thing is looking in the mirror and saying you're not great at things. And people are like, well, I need to get more balance. No, you don't. Get people that specialize in these things. We got a professional organizer that came to the house that we bring in every 3 months. Find your downfalls and hire people that actually enjoy doing those things. You might not be a CFO. Hire the best CFO you could. You might not be great at analyzing numbers. Well, an FP&A person, they live in these things and it really gets them excited. They're great at it. They don't mind doing it. We got a gal, Leanne. She's phenomenal. She hired Greg underneath her, who's phenomenal. So there's 2 people just descrambling numbers, giving me the KPIs I need to run the company. And I think realizing the first person to hire needs to be, what's your time suck? If you find yourself doing minimum wage things like email and like going through email and like the stuff I see that are so unproductive that people do when you could hire somebody at $15, $17, $19 an hour, like, how much do you make? First, figure out how much you make. Take a 50-hour work week, divide it into 52 weeks, and this is how much you make an hour. If you could hire anybody to do it for less than you make, hire them. You shouldn't be cleaning your own pool, mowing your own lawn, unless you absolutely enjoy it. You listen to Audible books. It's your time to get away and just relax. Then do it. By all means, do it. But otherwise, don't do it.
So I think some are going to be listening to this going, well, yeah, that's easy for you to say, Tommy. You've got money now. How do I make that first step? Like some of
Yeah,
them
well,
are
I
not
tell you,
mowing their lawn because they love it. They feel like they have to. They don't understand that concept that you just went over, but they're also like, yeah, but I don't have the money.
if you don't have the money to get a landscaper, if you don't have the money to get your house cleaned, you got bigger problems. Why did you start in business? You started in business to have freedom and have more time. And you started a business to give your family the life they never had. You're 10 years into this business and everything you started has failed. I look at your schedule and I look at your credit card statements. I'll find out what's important in your life, period. And you say, I did it for this. I did it. You mask all these things of why you did it, but you forget why you started. And if you can't afford these things, why did you get into business if you can't afford a landscaper? If you can't afford to take your wife and kids out to dinner and go on a vacation, maybe here's the deal. You got to work your ass off, Ryan, for the first 5 years. You're putting in sweat equity. Most of us don't start out with a golden spoon and have $1 million to put into the business. So we got to work in the business. And we got to learn the hard knocks. We got to make mistakes. Hopefully we're falling forward. And I had to do that for 10 years. You got to remember, Ryan, I've been doing this almost 20 years. I started in my early 20s. I'm about to be 41. This didn't come easy. This isn't like somebody handed me. My parents didn't give me any money. I didn't have anything. I just had to work. I had to have 3 jobs while I started my company for the first 3 years. Three jobs. And I couldn't afford anything. I did mow the lawn. I did have to do everything. I did everything in the house. I fixed the toilet. And yes, maybe people say, well, check your manhood. You should be able to do that stuff. You know my manhood, you know what it needs? It needs to communicate with the players on my team. It needs to tell people they're having a killer day. They want recognition. I always look at what do I need to do? No one can congratulate somebody like I can. I can't have my executive assistant calling people saying, Tommy's proud of you. No one can run a meeting like I can. What do I have to do? And what could I delegate? And make that list. And be very, very look, without an executive assistant, I'd be completely useless. I mean, they run my life. I've got Bree, and she's no longer my EA, but I've got Allison, and they work together on everything because Bree's my personal life saying, hey, we got a vacation going here. Need to figure this out. Need to do this. And they work together. I'm hiring a house manager because I moved up to that level, and I'm hiring a chef and a driver, and I'm doing things because now I've got to grow. I've got to make my time go an extra mile. If I'm going to continue to grow this business, the time matters. And you say, yeah, it's easy for you to say, well, once you're in business for 20 years, if you're not making it, then we really need to talk. But I had to do everything. I was mowing lawns, shoveling snow when I was 8 years old. I was washing dishes when I was 12, a year before I was legally able to work. It takes hard work, discipline, grit, consistency, and it's not easy. It's not easy at all, but I'm glad I didn't have a lot of money because I would have made a lot bigger mistakes. I would have gone bankrupt if somebody gave me $1 million. I had to go work my butt off and make the mistakes. Metaphorically speaking, there's a lot of bruises and scars. So when I look at a business now, I go, nope, I made that mistake. Nope, that's the wrong move. Nope, that's not important today. And because I've already done it, you see a lot of multi-millionaires go broke and they get the money back within a year because they know the formula. We take calculated risks all the time. And if somebody's sitting there saying, I don't like to take risks, then you don't deserve to be in business. Business is not for everybody. The chance of failure is high probability or everybody would do it. And I'm telling you, there's some people that just aren't cut out. They can't handle the stress, the anxiety. They can't wake up and know what they need to do. There's relationships that are burned through this. Sometimes father and sons don't talk ever again because of money and because of business. So you got to be very careful on how you're running your business and what you're prioritizing in the business.
Man, that was awesome. That's going to be like a long highlight reel right there because that was a lot of stuff. It really, I think people would be surprised when how many people I get on strategy sessions with that I'm like, are you sure you want to be an entrepreneur? Like this you may not be cut out for this. Like you said, if you're going to be a business owner, like you did it to get freedom. You did it to get more money. So if you're really going to put yourself in that prison, why not just go work for someone else that's not even a good boss? Because we're the worst boss to ourselves, So very well said. You talked about risk. How much risk should someone be prepared to take? There's always the economy and it's up and down. It's this and that. Some of them are taking the wrong risks, but talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's David and Goliath. I mean, when you're smaller, you could take larger risks because they don't hurt as bad. I've got a lot on the line. We're in 35 markets. We're in 22 states. Everything that I do is above board. I literally if somebody leaves a review of a friend and I find out about it, I'm like, we better have worked on their garage. Like everything's got to be 100%. It's like kind of like when you're small, the IRS, most people are flying under the radar. They're not going after the guy that made a $10,000 mistake on his tax return. But when you're bigger, we get audited every year by a Big Four because I don't want any tax issues. Like, and I will say, like, I've taken the necessary steps and leveled up at every level. And I'm just getting started. Like, the fact is, calculated risks. We did 300 grand to the Vegas Knights. We sponsored them. We're taking a risk to see how it works. And if it works well, which it is so far, we're probably going to do 5 other teams. We're going to do the Milwaukee Bucks. We're looking at doing something in Nashville. And so success leaves clues, and we A/B test stuff all the time. And, you know, risks are, some stuff is, should I get 2 vans? Should I order 2 more vans? I got to fill it with a truck. I got to get a good guy in that truck. I got to make sure they're trained. And I taken a lot of risks, and some of them definitely failed. But I'm a risk taker, and but they're calculated risks. The odds are always in my favor. And so I think it's important. You know, Ryan, I want to talk about one other thing on this, because I see a lot of people that just, they're not cut out for business. And I'll tell you, here's a test. Do you focus on what you can control or what you can't control? You can't control the economy. You can't control Bidenomics. You can't control what's happening in Israel. You can't control the stock market. You can't control the traffic. You can't control if your cell phone's getting a signal. There's a lot of things you can control. Focus on what you can. Number 2, do you focus on what you have, or do you focus on what you don't have? You know how many people would trade your spot for clean water, for food on the table, for just an opportunity to hang out with loved ones? That maybe they lost somebody, maybe they got paralyzed and they can't move their fingers. So focus on what you have versus what you don't have. So you focus on what you can control versus can't control, what you have versus what you don't have. And then do you focus on what happened in the past? And do you live in the past? We all know those people. They're like, if that didn't happen 10 years ago, it's like focus on the present and the future, because you can't change the past. People that are depressed, they have anxiety, they're just constantly stressed out. They focus on what they can't control all the time. They focus on, you know, the golf tournament, the Waste Management Opens here. It's going to rain. You can't control that. You can live and say, oh God, it's raining, it sucks. Or you just say, we're going to go and have a good time no matter what. And I just find a lot of people where they're so stressed out and everybody's walking on eggshells around them. They're angry. They get into a meeting and they're just constantly bitching at people. And you don't criticize in public. One-on-ones are where you go and you figure things out. And be somebody you'd work for, you'd want to work for. Don't be somebody that's like, man, this guy's always in a bad mood. He's always complaining. And the owner, you know, I made a rule. I will not have a new truck until every one of my technicians and installers have a new truck. I never had a new truck. And finally, everyone had one, so I decided to get a new truck. And like, I think leaders should eat last. Leaders should lead from up front. And I just look at people and their problems are so minuscule in the scheme of things. Like, there's so much going on in this world. There's 2 billion stars in our galaxy and 4 trillion galaxies that we know of in the foreseeable future, or the universe of what we know of it today. Your problems aren't that big. You think they are, but they're not.
I love it, man. When I first learned sales, my first sales gig, that my trainer told me that control the controllables. And that was like the best advice ever, because I took it to heart. And that was every day. I was like, yeah, I can't control if someone slams the door in my face. Like, they were going to do that regardless of what I said. That's just who they are. Someone can still say no in a polite way. That's not them, right? So great advice. The other day I haven't listened to this episode yet. You did a podcast with Damon John, but I was scrolling Facebook, which I'm trying to do less of. It's one of my things that I'm trying to do less of, but it happens to be the way my business is growing. So, but I saw your video that you made right after. It was a live or something like that. And you talked about the process of like, yeah, I was not planning on interviewing him right then. Normally I like to get prepared and everything. And the message was, you know, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Talk to us a little bit about that, because if you notice, I'm hitting on all the things that I see just as an external viewer of what you're doing and your strengths, but it's also something that you're a master at, or mastering, is being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, they have built a culture of change. I mean, You look at a GVP or Google My Business page, it's getting ready to change dramatically into a 5-pack. Used to be 7, then it went to 3, it'll be 5. I'm constantly networking, learning about different types of marketing and sales. My CFO is he's getting trained. He's part of a group, always getting more training, going to conventions, flying out of town to learn something new. My VP of marketing is constantly around change and evolving and top grading and bringing on new resources. I think when I call a guy up to the front of the room and he's stuttering and he's afraid, my job is to get him comfortable, make him into a better speaker. I get people uncomfortable all the time, and I say, man, I remember walking in front of 800 people 5 years ago, and I was like very uncomfortable. And now I'm in front of thousands of people, and I'm like, dude, it doesn't bother me at all. So I like to get uncomfortable. I like to be in uncomfortable situations. I literally do better in an environment where I'm stuck between a rock and a hard spot. I perform at the best. And so I create accountability everywhere for myself. I've got 2 speaking coaches. Right now, I think I've got 6 coaches that I work with. I'm investing a lot of money in my personal development. I'm reading a lot of books. I'm literally on a lot of podcasts. And, I look at this and I go, it's not really fair. I built up to this, but a lot of my competitors don't stand a chance. They're not looking at the numbers. They don't have a CRM. They're still on paper. I mean, we've got Rilla Voice that listens to every single call. I've got Chirp that I'm building 10 campaigns out that I'll book. My booking rate's going to go through the roof. My rehash rate, I'll close way more deals. Like the recall rate will go down because I'm creating a new campaign for the 5 things you need to know why most people call us for a courtesy call that you could fix yourself. These 10 campaigns are going to add millions of dollars to the bottom line a month. So I'm embracing technology. I think it's so important in these next few years that you are getting technology, your price book set up, your CRM, your KPIs are dialed in, and it's all automated. And it's like, I really do think like I'm just getting started. Like the sky is the limit. And I don't feel like I have the same role I had a year ago or 2 years ago. And I don't feel like in 6 months I'll have the same role. Like I'm pivoting all the time. And I'm looking at where are the biggest problems. I feel like I'm on Mars looking down at Earth for volcanoes, earthquakes, tornadoes. I'm just looking at the problems and I'm inserting myself in, getting the answers, delegating, and resolving bigger things. And right now it's how do I become a talent magnet? A+ players. That's going to be my biggest thing this year. I could turn on leads. I could get unlimited leads. And most people can't say that. Now I need to get capacity planning. How do I get great technicians, great technicians and installers to fill the void? Because most people they're interviewing anybody that'll walk in. They're like, oh, Indeed's not doing that good. Glassdoor and ZipRecruiter, and I put an ad on Craigslist, and it's like, oh, you're not getting great people? Well, you pay like shit. You got no benefits. You're an asshole. And you're wondering why no one works for you? Like the top guy makes 60 grand in your company and you wonder why? Like, listen, I love capitalism. A lot of people don't like it. It makes you become the best. It makes you perform. It makes you recognize your competition and work harder. And I'm up for the challenge every day of the week.
I love that because I actually learned this from he's one of our coaches in Landscape Lighting Secrets, Dan Plata, and he's the best damn bookkeeper is his business, and he taught me the lifetime value. So like I used to be so focused on marketing and sales and everything. It's like, what's the lifetime value of your client and how much we're our customer acquisition cost. And then it was like he starts asking me those numbers about my team members. I'm like, I have no idea. And like we focus on the sales and then we complain about the people and how they don't show up and they're not what we want. And like you said, like one, we're not paying them enough, but a lot of times because we're not paying them enough, we're not attracting the right person. So the lifetime value, I mean, you think about a small business doing $1 million a year. If they have, 5 team members, just in 1 year, their value is $200,000. And if they stay there 3 years, their lifetime value is $600,000. How much are you willing to invest in them? And I was like, crap, nothing, maybe a few $1,000 or whatever. It's pretty substantial.
It's the old cliche. What happens if I train them and they leave? And the answer to that is what happens if I train them and they stay?
Okay.
And everybody's worried. Like if you're worried about somebody leaving, look in the mirror. Why would somebody leave? It's because of you. I could go to 99% of companies and I could say the problem is the founder. It's the owner. It's you. And you don't want to accept it. There's a reason you're fat is because you don't work out and you don't eat right. There's a reason why nobody wants to be around you and your wife is complaining, your husband's complaining, is because you're always in a bad mood. There's a reason why people don't drive good is because you don't have any systems in place. There's 3 reasons. There's no systems, the wrong system, or the current system's not being followed. And people are like, they answer everybody's questions. They're the sole resource for all the information. There's no manuals in place. People don't know the answer. How do I get PTO? And then PTO comes around at Christmas and everybody wants it. And then you wonder, why does everybody want it during Christmas? Well, where's the policies? Where's the guidelines? Where's the manuals? Where's the SOPs? You're the problem. And nobody wants to admit it. They're like, yeah, it's easy for you to say. No, it's not, because I was you. I was you. Trust me, it's easy for me to say because I was that guy. I was the guy with all the answers. I was the guy running late at night. I was the guy doing payroll. I was the guy answering everything and looking at new trucks and setting up the trucks and inventory. And, oh, I need branding. And now I needed to set up the CRM. Thank God I hired a couple really great people like Adam in 2014 who changed my life forever. Because without these people, you don't stand a chance. If you're the sole source of information, look in the mirror and at least say, I've got, in AA, and I've never been through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, but they say the first thing is admit you got a problem. And most people don't admit they've got a problem. They won't even acknowledge the fact that they're the problem. And that's where the underlying issue lies.
Yeah, well said, man. Okay, so I want to switch gears a minute. We had a really good question come in. If anyone spent any time around you, listened to your stuff, read your books, whatever, like you do control the controllables. You're a positive person. You've had a lot of success, super inspirational. But I want to talk about some of the harder parts, some of the low points, some of the sacrifices, because, you don't see that on social media. You don't see the hard conversations. That just doesn't come through. So what has been the hardest part of your journey?
I mean, there's a lot of things, but my mom's going to turn 70 on my birthday, March 4th. And I'm trying to make her something pretty special. And I was making her some videos the other day and I started crying because I haven't been the son that she probably deserves. And she taught me to fight through everything. Like, life's going to get better. Don't quit. And, there's a lot of people I haven't been around that I should have been. And I haven't been a great uncle, probably not the best brother or the son to my dad. And there's a lot of things I wish I did differently, but it's hard when you own a business to be everything for everybody and try to help everybody that has a question, show up for your employees, show up for your family, show up for Bree. And it's really hard because you make these sacrifices. And sometimes you're not the best parent because there's seasons of life. And you're doing the right thing because you're trying to set up them for the future they never had. And for me, it's just been time management has been an issue for a long time. It's trying to be everything for everyone. And I don't want to be selfish with my time, but my time is very important. And I do have a lot of people that depend on me just in here at this company. And I want to be a better son. And all they want is to know I'm healthy, and they want a little bit of my time. Really, really, really special time. Not watching Netflix or Amazon, not going to movies, like quality time. And for me to be where my feet are and to be all in. And I haven't done that very well. So that's a hard part for me. It's just I wish I showed up a little bit more in a greater way. Look, man, everything could go wrong, did go wrong. It was Murphy's Law. A lot of people stole from me. I just had a van totaled 2 other cars. Definitely a lawsuit coming out of that 2 weeks ago. Look, police have shown up. Drugs on the premises of customers before I did background checks and drug tests. I used to think buying cheap vehicles was like the ultimate advantage because if I wrapped it, it looked newer, but then it would break down. And I didn't understand accelerated depreciation or what it does to the mindset of a top technician when he can't work for 2 weeks because his truck's being fixed. Or when you show up to a customer's house and don't look like a premium company. One of my trainers just said, imagine 2 lawyers. One's wearing blue jeans and a cutoff shirt. You walk in his office and he says, here's a bottle of water and it's cheap water. And he says, I charge $1,500 an hour. And then you go into this other one and it's leather bound chairs and the lighting's right. And the lady comes out and greets you and there's a smart water. And you go in and you see all the cases he's won and he walks in a 3-piece suit and says, I know every judge and prosecuting attorney in this town. I could almost guarantee you I'll get you a better verdict than anything, or better result. That guy's worth $1,500. A lot of us show up with a shitty brand, with a horrible uniform, with a technician that doesn't have any confidence,
Right.
without a great CRM, without letting the customer know who we are, with sending out the profile of the technician. I mean, look, man, if it's happened to me. I mean, there are days that I felt like giving up. There are days that I felt like I couldn't take the stress. And one good day happens. Like, I got very fortunate, because there were times when I'm like, I just felt like this business is not worth the stuff I have to deal with. And it's like, man, every time you think you're getting ahead, something else happens. It's like, wait, we didn't pay that bill. There's 20. Why didn't you pay 20 grand coming out of the account? I mean, when the tax man on April 15th, like my CPA used to call me, and I'd be like, what do you mean I got to pay that much? I don't even have that much money in my account. Like, I
So
didn't make that much money.
one.
So I can tell you there was the dark ages. And I can tell you, most people are 3 feet from gold. They're one hire away. They're one KPI of a little twist of a knob. It's the darkest part of the night, right before the sun comes out. And just realize, some people are just so close. They spike the ball right before the end zone, and it's going to get better. And you got people around you that'll help, that care for you.
And I love it. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks for sharing that, because, man, there's so many of us. I mean, myself included. It's like, yeah, there's days in the last month where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, there's always those moments. But like you said, most of us are 3 feet from gold. And curious if you have any, like, there was a conversation I was having with one of my coaches, and I can't remember if I said this out loud or if it was one of my thoughts, but I was like, he's like, what do you want? And why? Because, like, there, you get to a certain status in life, whether it's monetarily or time or whatever, and you're like, you don't have to grind as hard as you used to, right? And I was like, yeah, but I think I may have either said it or I thought it. I'm like, well, I want to be the Tommy Mello of landscape lighting, right? And then I was like, man, I don't know what that really means. Like, do I really want to do those sacrifices? Do I really want to do the things that he had to do? Is there anything you would do different over the last 5-10 years, knowing what you know now? Or is it like, no, that's what sacrifices are required. This is where I wanted to get.
Well, if I didn't learn the hard lessons, I just flipped a Can-Am on Sunday. I don't think I'll ever flip another Can-Am, but I learned the hard way. And I've kind of gone through life learning the hard way every time. Thank God I'm intact and healthy and no broken bones. But, I think about people, they're either after money or fame. They're trying to be an influencer, or they want money because they're trying to figure out, most of them want the money to spend it. They want a big house. They want 3 cars. I can tell you this. A big deposit got made into my account a little over a year ago. I bought a really nice house. I'm building a nice house in Idaho. I got the DeLorean. I got a 67 Firebird for Bree, and I got a 67 Chevelle, and that's all cool and dandy. It hasn't made me any happier. What's so cool is I can do what I want, when I want, with who I want. I can fly first class or take a private plane where I want to go. Money's a tool, and the money is not going to make you happy. And I think that's, people say it's easy for you to say, no, I've been through it. It's how you look at life. It's the decisions you make. It's whether you choose to be grateful or just want more stuff. And, I want to help a lot more people. And I made a commitment to Core Tech and the limited partners at that company that I was going to get them a really big ROI. And there's a point in your life when money's working harder than you could ever work. And it's called compound interest. And I think you meet a movie star that they never get peace and quiet. Macaulay Culkin, you remember from Home Alone, he stopped acting for decades because he didn't want any more of this. He's like, the fame is not what it's cut out. A lot of people commit suicide. They get no privacy. They're getting mocked all over the news for stupid stuff that are made up. Political people, like the lies that come out of that stuff. So you got to really question, what do you want? What I advise is have a North Star, pretend you're 70, 75 years old, and start writing down what your life looks like as certainties. You took a trip to Italy with your grandma, and you guys went and visited this city, and be very specific about the houses you want or the planes you want to buy. And Like, design the life and reverse engineer how you want it to go. How much did you fish a week? How much did you go golfing? Who'd you spend time with and how much time? When you establish this North Star as a guideline, how much time did you go to church? How much did you get involved in the community? How much did you do for people around you? You start to figure out, this is how I want it to look, so let's design this life. Very few people take the time to write things down and actually plan things. And you start to manifest, and it's like you put it out in the world, and all of a sudden it starts to, like, everything kind of starts fitting into place. And it's the experiences. I bought a huge house, and it's full this week and next week. It was full last week. And I'm building relationships and having the time of my life and enjoying every minute of it. I did it for the experiences and the stories and the quality time and the relationships that are going to grow because of it. I didn't do it because, oh, look at me, I've got a beautiful, nice, big house, and to do a bunch of posts on social media of a private jet and my Ferrari and this big house. I wanted time with people. I lived in a small apartment for 4 years. So it was a place where I could have people over and I could cook and we could have fun. We could play games and we could get to know each other. That's where I had my dad's 70th birthday. And I had all my aunts and uncles, all of his siblings in town. And it was amazing. And, you know, I think so many people they're after the wrong things. And you got to really sit down and reflect. And this is impossible for a lot of people. It was almost impossible for me, is to think, what really makes me smile? What's the quality time? I don't want to be around my mom and dad 24/7. I did that my first long when I was a kid. I want to just spend quality time and let them know I'm good. You know, parents want to know I'm doing great, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I love you. You just do that enough, you let them know, it'll go a long way.
Awesome. That's way cool. All right. So let's get out of the vulnerability talk, but let's get into some marketing. How did you compete? This came from someone from my group here. How did you compete with bigger garage door companies when you were starting out?
Yeah, well, it's the David and Goliath. I mean, I could get 3 reviews from each customer when I'm smaller. I don't have the time now to ask for 3 and really sit down. I used to go to B&I meetings and really network. I don't have the time for that. Like, the big companies aren't doing that. I can put 10 yard signs out every single day. I could control a lot of those things. I had more time to focus on quality videos. And, you know, the deal is I network. Success leaves clues. You want to find out how to be number 1 on Angie? Search in your city search garage doors or HVAC or roofing. Call the guy up and say, I'm a big fan of yours. I've studied your website. I think you're amazing. You're making a big impact in the community. I follow you on Facebook. I've read your book. I listened to your podcast. Would you mind if I took you out to dinner? And I just asked you a few questions. And listen, I'm glad to give you any of my customers that ask for roofing. And all of a sudden, they'll tell you the way I dominate Angie is here's what I figured out. And instead of going to find the best place, find the number 1 company that actually shows the results. So many people, this is what bothers me, Ryan, is so many people out there, they hire consultants. They don't have a track record. They never really made it in the real world. 9 out of 10 consultants, they're renting an Airbnb, posting pictures. They borrowed their friend's Porsche, and they've never really made it. You look at their company, and they went bankrupt, so they decided to go coach. So all I'd ask is validate who you're following. There's a lot of people like Al Levy. His company did great that his father owned. It was 18 million in the 90s, but Al figured out processes, and he's the best at it. And he helped me out so much. 2017, he came in, we were doing 17 million. He handed me his book, The 7 Power Contractor. He sat me down. I hired him, gave him several hundreds of $1,000s, and we created manuals and SOPs and an org chart. And I was doing 17 million. I just wasn't keeping any of it. I hired Alan Rohr, his good friend, and Gail, Alan's sister, to come in and help me with my financials and get my known financial position. And I'm the first one to ask for help and invest in smarter people. I've made some mistakes, but I'd say most of the consultants I've hired have had a specialty. They've been highly regarded in their field, and I've hired them to coach me. And I'm never going to stop doing that.
That's cool. So I think that's interesting. I had heard that before. I think some people get frustrated because they're doing like maybe even $1 million a year. And they're frustrated because, like, well, I don't have the manuals yet, and I don't have this, and I don't have that. And here you are at 17 million. Like you said, you weren't keeping any of it, but it's never too late to get started. You know, there's so many people out there that almost get embarrassed because they feel like they should be further along. They feel like, you know, Tommy's the overnight success, even though you just told us you're the 20-year overnight success. I think they get embarrassed. I think that's why it's important. Like you put on an awesome event, the Freedom event, um, to be in coaching groups. I think it's important to be around others to not let you fall off the path, right?
Well, it's accountability. And I just got done doing an orientation with all the new techs. And I said, the most important thing, your mindset. And I said, I want each and every one of you to call these 3 guys. And I want to make sure the trainers, it seems like to me, people are embarrassed. I'm like, you become who you hang around with. And I'm telling you, the top guys call each other every day. And I want to tell you guys something else that's really interesting is Dan Antonelli became part of my life. And I'm like, this is cool, this kick charge thing. It's fairly expensive. I'm not going to pay you that kind of money. And I was at $40 million. And Al Levy took a picture of our vans, black and white. And he said, tell me what you do from this picture. I'm like, oh, man, it's kind of hard to tell. I thought I was so cool because everybody mentioned my raps and said, Tommy, you're blowing up. I see your trucks everywhere. So I'm like, we must have a great brand. And all of a sudden, Dan was like, your stickers are maroon. Your colors are red. Your website looks nothing like any of it. Your Valpak, I can't even tell any similarities. There's no symmetry. He's like, let's rebrand you. And I'm like, I'm trying to save my pennies and being like, no, I'm already doing 40 million. And I just said, F it. Dan, do your work. And you could ask him. I was a pretty easy client. My caricature, whatever the word is, on my face. He screwed up my nose. So Bree was like, fix his nose. I don't know if it made it bigger or smaller, but it's a big nose. I got
I'm going to
sniff
go
out
and
a
check
lie
that
in any
after this.
building.
Yeah. And compare it to the real Tommy Mello's nose.
So, yeah, that's what we did. We rebranded. And then I had a buddy of mine, Travis, in Portland, and he said, Joe Cressara has changed our company. So Joe and I talked, and I said, hey, man, I got referred over to you. He came in, taught us a lot of stuff, the magic moment and how to give options instead of ultimatums, and really taught us a lot of things on easy things like what should we do after you give the quote. And yeah, that's what I've done, man, is I've talked to a lot of people, been an open book, not lied, cheated, or stole from people. If I shake your hand, I come through with what I say I'm going to do, and treat people how I want to be treated, and ask for help as much as possible. And I think that's the key to my success. I'll tell you this. I was lost when I started in business. I didn't know how to read a balance sheet and income statement. I didn't know what a KPI even was. So
look at you now.
Now I'm like obsessed with the numbers, man. And I dive in deep, and I ask for numbers that no one else is thinking about. I ask who's the hiring managers and how long is their average guy and what's the performance of their guy. I'm getting all this reports. People dig into their CRMs. I'm digging into all my payroll, the Paylocity, right? I'm asking questions no one else is asking. I'm going into Intact and looking at things that very few people even think about, like their accounts receivable and how far is that and why is that? We had 3 technicians that were collecting on installs because the person wasn't there. We changed our terms and conditions that we could charge the rest of it when it's complete. We went from 7% to 2% AR, which when you're doing a couple $100 million, 5% is $10 million. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, you just mentioned some names, some relationships with Dan Antonelli and Al Levy, and Chirp is a new relationship for you, and just like all these things. And the key to happiness in life really comes down to those, health, wealth, and relationships. And especially at your event, the Home Service Freedom event, it's like, man, and before that, but I just saw it there more in person. Like, you are a master of relationships, and you're a master at delegating to elevate and all the stuff that you talk about, right? You're also becoming a master at wealth, and then more recently, you're adding the third element of health, which is awesome.
Yep.
Because like now you've got it all, And I think most people are focused on one, and then they become completely out of balance, and it actually causes more chaos in their life. Speak a little bit about the relationship between health, wealth, and relationships.
Well, there was a time where I'd be the guy at the party, at a pool party, with my shirt on. I mean, Giuseppe's filming us right now, and he knows we went to Nordstrom's one time, and he was filming me, and he was coming in the changing room, but not like naked, but I was like changing shirts, and I'm like, get out of here, because I was embarrassed. And I was like, and he'd always pinch my fat when he'd walk by and annoy the shit out of me. So I was like, all of a sudden it hit this threshold of I am the problem. My decisions are the problem. I got to take accountability. I can make a choice when I'm at the grocery store. I can make a choice when I order food. I can make a choice whether to have that third beer. And yeah, it's complete accountability. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, some people are embarrassed about their smile. You know, their teeth aren't perfect, but they got a couple grand. They could get that fixed. They just choose not to. They might have a big mole, and I got all my moles taken off of my body. And because I wouldn't say embarrassed about it. I just didn't want them. And invest in yourself first, because you need to be content with yourself. You need to be able to walk in a room and think you're worth it. Because if you don't think you're worth it, no one else is going to think you're worth it. You need to keep your promises to yourself. And if you tell yourself you're going to be in shape and quit smoking or whatever you say, or become a better dad or become a better lover or become more to your significant other, and you don't keep your promises to yourself, that's the biggest issue. Is you lie to yourself all the time, no one else is going to take you seriously. And I need a complete accountability. I mean, I'll put it on Facebook. I'll put my goals out there. I'll tell everybody to where I have no choice. I put it out in the world, and I have people holding my feet to the fire. I flipped the Can-Am on Sunday. I had to work out on Monday morning. And I was like, I could call in and tell them I'm sore, or I could just show up and work through it. And, the trainer really helps me be accountable because he gets really upset if I cancel. And that's a good trainer. And he never pushes me to the point where I'm not going to go back. He's never like, I'm going to make you so sore you're never going to wake up. He's just like, look, he knows how to push me a little bit more each week, and then the results start coming. He told me the other day, he goes, I got a guy that just came to me. He's been working out every day for 4 years. And I said, so he must be in amazing shape. He goes, no, horrible shape, because he does the same weights and the same routine every week. He never changes it up. He uses the same exact 20-pound curls, 12 curls 4 times. Next week should be 22 pounds. Next week should be 25. Then you might get stuck at 25 for 3 weeks. Then you go to 26. And you got to constantly be changing things up. The same thing works in business. And I think that my ability to ask for help is why I think I'm successful. I'm the first one to ask, and I know who to ask. And I think billionaires and people that are enjoying their life more, they know the right people to ask. They're the best networkers. They don't have the best habits. They just know the right people to ask for the answers. They build a strong network. I think your network is your net worth. I believe that.
I love it. So, because someone asked, like, how does he stay so focused? And we asked the question already, but I was like, I don't know Tommy very well. We're not hanging out every weekend, but he's not that focused. But you just said it. It's like you're so good at finding people that are better at things than you, and it's phenomenal to see in action.
I can stay focused in meetings. Look, you got to understand, I'm not a morning guy. I function better at night. I need a whiteboard. I need to think through things. I need to turn off my cell phone. And when we go into the conference room in the other room over there, I need to know what are the things we're solving, and we're not leaving this room till it's done. And we work through it, and we get answers, and I delegate, and I get put dates on things. And if I go in tired and I didn't get enough sleep and I'm hungry, I got to go to the bathroom and there's distractions everywhere, and I'm in a place where people are just coming in asking me questions, that's not conducive to getting things done. And some people say I get so much more work done when I get home at my house. Well, put a thing on your door that says I'm busy right now working on the one thing, and actually make sure it's in your calendar. Your calendar is everything. I wouldn't have been here for this podcast if Allison didn't walk in. My calendar is booked. If you saw my calendar, it looks like the freaking 8 rainbows. It's all different colors and things. And if there might be something, call your mom or call your niece because it's her birthday, or do this or do that. I mean, if it doesn't get on the calendar, it doesn't get done.
So I got, as we try to land the plane here, really good question came in. If you lost it all and had to start all over in landscape lighting, okay, it's the one commandment. You can't go back to doing what you're doing. You're going to start landscape lighting. What would be your first move?
So without any money, with zero capital to start?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing, I think that'd be a huge mistake. I'd go get a job and at least have some money to work with. If you're starting,
let's say you had a
business,
job. Let's say, yeah, I mean, you don't have your money now, but starting all over again, you have your knowledge, you've got, maybe 10,000 in savings or something like that.
Yeah. So what I would do is I'd really focus on, I'd be the worker because I don't have enough money to hire a worker, and I'd build the SOPs. I'd really dial in the manuals and the answers and come up with an exact strategy that's repeatable. The
You
next
do
thing
that
I do
first,
is I'd,
and you
what's
wouldn't
that?
wait till you do that first and not wait till you get to 17 million.
Well, I'd make a lot of videos. Like you could invest in Al Levy's stuff. Al Levy kind of lays it all out, but either way, there's a certain way you need to roll up the lights. So I'd really catalog that, make sure I got videos of it. I'd make sure that here's how you put your ladder to make sure you never get hurt. It takes a little bit longer, but you got to make sure the feet are, whatever that is on this type of angle. And I start cataloging all these things. You don't need Al Levy to create processes. He makes it very simple. How do you, he's got it all cataloged, but you don't need him to do it. Like you don't need to wait till you could afford his program, which is 8 or 10 grand, which I paid several hundred for. Like you should come up. If you get the same question 10 times a day, create a system and an SOP or a checklist. Next thing I do is I find a good CRM. I'd probably use Jobber or Service Fusion or, one of the more affordable ones, House Call Pro, and dial in the price book and make sure I got a solid price book. The next thing I do is I'd figure out a way to finance a nice truck and get it branded correctly. And you got to invest in a website and make sure your LLC and you got the workers' comp set up and you got the systems, but it doesn't take very much money. There's some of these things you should finance. Like the brand will help recruiting. The brand will help charge the right prices. The brand will help you get reviews. It'll help you get recognized. It'll lower your marketing spend. Like it'd be one of the first things I did. I don't know if I could afford it the first year, but I worked my butt off because companies take $250,000 to incubate them up. I mean, it does. You got to get a website. You got to get your corporate structure dialed in. You got to get a few key hires. Like I see people starting with nothing. Well, you're going to work 5 to 7 years sweat equity before you can afford to build a business. It takes an investment. I mean, you need people, unless you know how to build a website really, really great and do SEO, and you understand metadata and schema data and H1 tags, and you understand exactly how to make Google My Business or GVP rank, or you understand, like, next thing I do, I mean, you can't be a pro at all this stuff, is I'd go to every B&I meeting. I talk to everybody I met, and I'd ask for referrals. And I'd go to the home show, and I do things cheaper than everybody. I'd say, give me out for a $29 tune-up. Why? Because I need reviews. I need a lot of reviews. And I'm going out there doing the sweat equity piece of it to get a ton of reviews because I could do things for cheaper because I don't have the overhead. I don't have a bunch of employees I got to pay and PTO and insurance and 401ks and truck payments. I could do a lot more because I'm the machine. I could work longer days. I could knock on the neighbors' doors when the big companies don't have time to do that. So there's a lot of things the smaller guys could do that the big companies don't have the time to do and don't have the resources to do. The owner could do so much, and the owner could build relationships. And I think you got to go to working on the business instead of in the business. But when you have no money, you're working in the business. That's just the nature of the beast. You're doing a lot of stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, man. Well, as we wrap up, I guess I'll just turn it over to you one last time. Is there any final advice, words of wisdom you want to share with people? Maybe someone who's, feeling frustrated, someone who's like a little bit stuck, a little unsure about what to expect this year. Anything you want to share as we wrap up?
Yeah, I'd say this, if you feel like the world's coming at you in a tough way, ask for help. Success leaves clues. The reason I became very successful, it didn't happen until I started getting out of my own way and going to visit extremely successful HVAC, air conditioning, plumbing shops. I toured $100 million shop after $100 million shop, and I said, hey, I'm just a garage door guy. I'd go in with being super grateful, read all their books, listen to their podcasts, tell them how amazing they are, follow them on social media, comment on their stuff on LinkedIn, and just say, I want to come in, take you to dinner. And if I ever come to this market and I do garage doors, I'm going to recommend you. I give them my story. It was never a story of excuses and how life's coming at me. It was just, this is how I got started, and I'm going to do big things, and I'm all in. You tell me to do something, I'm going to go incorporate it. Like, trust me, I'm not going to go compete with you. And people would invite me into their homes and their businesses, and they'd let me sit down with their VPs of corporate development and their CFO and their CMO. And so I open up this place to everybody. We do shop tours, and I don't charge for them. And I'd say, just go get out, Success leaves clues. Go to the biggest lighting company in the country and tell them you want to work with them. You adore them. You're out. Once you see and you watch people working, and the oxygen is different, the lighting's different. It's just a place where people are productive. And all of a sudden you're like, it is possible. And knowing it's real is half the battle. So, my website that I've got shop tours is tommymello.com, I think /shop. And if somebody wants to book out to come out here, I enjoy doing it and I learn a lot from it. And I like to brag about the amazing team we have here. And then all the handles that the Instagram, TikTok stuff is on there too. But I would just say success leaves clues, and just don't be afraid to ask. Go out there, put yourself out there, ask for more. No one ever got anything without asking. And a lot of people don't even ask for the sale. It's amazing to me.
That's a whole nother podcast episode there. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to stay in touch with Tommy, that's how you can schedule a tour. He's got his books out, The Home Service Millionaire. He's got Elevate, another amazing book. I thought it was cool you did the audiobook too, because I'm an audiobook guy, so it makes it easy to listen. And you kind of hear your passion and it's in your voice. So it's really cool. So look those up. If you guys don't have those, make sure to get those. Listen to his podcast. He has amazing guests on there as well. But Tommy, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And thanks for sharing all that amazing information. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it too. This was fun.
All right, guys, have an amazing week. Thank you, Tommy, and everyone. Now just go implement everything you heard. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you later.